Imagine a world where the mighty Roman Empire has crumbled, leaving a power vacuum across Europe. Chaos reigns as warring tribes vie for dominance over lands once ruled by the emperors. This was a time of upheaval, a time when the future of the continent hung in the balance. From the ruins of this broken world emerged one unlikely group, the Franks, led by kings who would not only conquer but redefine what it meant to rule. Their decisions, alliances, and ambitions would lay the foundation for the Europe we know today. Welcome to History Mysteries, where today we'll explore the rise of the Franks and the birth of modern Europe. The fall of Rome didn't just mark the end of an empire, it marked the dawn of a new era. In the West, chaos reigned as tribal kingdoms rose from the ashes of Roman rule. Among the most powerful of these were the Franks, a people who had long hovered on the fringes of the Roman world. But unlike other Germanic tribes, the Franks didn't just want to raid or plunder. They had the ambition to build something lasting. In time, they would forge an empire that in many ways would surpass even Rome's legacy. Chapter 1: The Origins of the Franks. The story of the Franks begins long before their empire, originating from the Lower Rhine region. The Franks were a confederation of tribes known for their military prowess, while other Germanic groups such as Visigoths and Vandals were famous for sacking Roman cities. The Franks focused on something different: expansion and settlement. By the 5th century, they had become a significant force in what is now France and Belgium. But it was under Clovis, a young and ambitious leader, that the Franks would rise to dominance. The Franks were unlike many of the other barbarian groups of the time. They weren't just content with raiding Roman towns or taking over small territories. They sought to create a lasting legacy. Living on the periphery of Roman Gaul, the Franks had long been familiar with Roman customs and administration. Some had even served as soldiers in the Roman legions. This gave them a unique advantage, as they understood the value of Roman infrastructure and governance. Under Clovis, this understanding would be put to use, as he aimed not just to conquer, but to unite all of the Frankish tribes and blend Roman and Frankish traditions. Chapter 2: The Rise of Clovis. Clovis wasn't just any king, he was a king with a vision. After defeating the last vestiges of Roman power in Gaul at the Battle of Soissons at 486, Clovis focused on uniting the various Frankish tribes under one crown. His military campaigns were ruthless and efficient, defeating rival tribes and expanding his influence over much of modern-day France and Belgium. But Clovis knew that brute force alone wouldn't be enough to hold his kingdom together. He needed something more: a shared belief system, a unifying force that could cement his rule. That force would come in the form of Christianity. Clovis's victory at Soissons was only the beginning of his rise to power. With each victory, his control over the fragmented Frankish lands grew. But as he consolidated power, he realized that his kingdom needed more than just military strength to survive. The Frankish lands were a patchwork of tribal loyalties, and Clovis understood that he needed something to unify his diverse subjects. It was his wife, Clotilde, a Christian princess, who pushed him towards the idea of adopting Christianity. Although initially resistant, Clovis had a change of heart after his victory against the Alemanni in 508. This pivotal moment came when Clovis attributed his victory to the Christian God, leading him to be baptized and align his kingdom with the Catholic Church. Chapter 3: The Christianization of the Franks. In 508 AD, Clovis made a decision that would not only change the fate of the Franks but also the entire future of Europe. Following his victory against the Alemanni, Clovis embraced Christianity, a move that would cement his rule and bring the Frankish kingdom into the fold of Western Christendom. His conversion wasn't just spiritual, it was deeply political. By aligning with the Roman Catholic Church, Clovis ensured the loyalty of his new Christian subjects and gained the favor of the powerful bishops in Gaul. This decision also set the Franks apart from other barbarian kingdoms, many of which adhered to Arian Christianity, a branch considered heretical by Rome. The impact of Clovis' conversion cannot be overstated. At the time, many of the kingdoms that had risen after the fall of Rome were Arian Christians, such as the Visigoths and Ostrogoths. Arianism was seen as a heresy by the Roman Catholic Church, creating friction between these new powers and the old Christian strongholds. By adopting Nicene Christianity, Clovis positioned himself as a true heir to the Roman legacy, a defender of the faith. His baptism in Rheims was not just a religious act, it was a powerful political statement. It demonstrated that the Frankish kingdom would align itself with the church, laying the groundwork for a future where the church and the state would be deeply intertwined. Chapter 4: The Merovingians and the Carolingians. Clovis' descendants, known as the Merovingians, would rule for over 2 centuries, but as time passed, the Merovingian kings became increasingly ineffective, earning them the nickname Do-Nothing Kings. Real power began to shift into the hands of the mayors of the palace, powerful nobles who governed on behalf of the king. One of these nobles, Charles Martel, would go down in history for his role in halting the Islamic expansion into Europe. At the Battle of Tours in 732, Martel's forces decisively defeated the Umayyad Caliphate, preserving Christian rule in Western Europe. The decline of the Merovingian dynasty was slow but inevitable. As royal authority waned, local nobles gained power, and the Merovingian kings became little more than figureheads. But amidst this decline, a new power was rising within the Frankish court. Charles Martel, the mayor of the palace, became the de facto ruler of the Franks, and his victory at the Battle of Tours cemented his legacy as a savior of Christendom. This battle wasn't just a military victory, it was a turning point for Europe. Had the Umayyad forces become victorious, the course of European history might have been dramatically different. Chapter 5: The Reign of Charlemagne. But it was under Charlemagne, the grandson of Charles Martel, that the Frankish Empire reached its zenith. Known as the Father of Europe, Charlemagne expanded the empire to include much of Western and Central Europe. His reign was not only defined by military conquest, but also by his efforts to promote learning and culture. In 800 AD, Charlemagne was crowned Emperor of the Romans by Pope Leo III, marking the revival of the Western Roman Empire. Under Charlemagne, the Frankish Empire became the dominant political and cultural force in Europe. Charlemagne's reign was one of transformation. Not content with simply expanding his borders, he sought to revive the intellectual and cultural achievements of Rome. Charlemagne was deeply committed to what we now call the Carolingian Renaissance, a revival of learning, art, and culture that spread across Europe. He established the schools, preserved classical texts, and brought scholars from all corners of his empire to his court at Aachen. This intellectual awakening laid the groundwork for the cultural and educational development of medieval Europe. Charlemagne also sought to improve governance, sending out royal agents known as missi dominici to ensure that his vast empire was well administered and that justice was fairly applied. His conquest and reforms turned the Frankish kingdom into a European superpower and set the stage for the political map of medieval Europe. Chapter 6: The Legacy of the Franks. Charlemagne's empire may have reached its peak during his reign, but after his death in 814, the unity he worked so hard to build slowly began to unravel. His grandsons would eventually divide the empire through the Treaty of Verdun in 843, which laid the groundwork for the emergence of the modern nations of France, Germany, and Italy. This division was more than just a political split. It marked the beginning of centuries of conflict, cooperation, and rivalry between these regions. Yet, despite the empire's fragmentation, the legacy of the Franks endured. their influence stretched far beyond borders, shaping the culture, governance, and religious landscape of Europe. The Treaty of Verdun was a critical turning point in European history. It marked the end of the unified Frankish Empire, but also the beginning of the political identities that would evolve into modern European states. France and Germany in particular owe much of their origins to this moment. But the legacy of the Franks wasn't just political, it was cultural. The Carolingian Renaissance, initiated by Charlemagne, set the stage for the intellectual developments of the later Middle Ages. Moreover, the Franks played a crucial role in the spread of Christianity, which would shape the religious and moral framework of Europe for centuries to come. In many ways, the Franks laid the foundation for modern European civilization, influencing everything from law and governance to art and education. The Franks were more than conquerors. They were builders, innovators, and visionaries who shaped the course of European history. Through leaders like Clovis and Charlemagne, they forged an empire that not only revived the legacy of Rome, but laid the foundation for the modern nations of Europe. The fall of the Roman Empire may have left Europe in chaos, but from that chaos, the Franks built something new, a political and cultural order that would endure for centuries. The collapse of Rome was not the end of civilization, but the beginning of a new chapter, and the Franks were its authors. In many ways, the Franks were the bridge between the ancient world and the medieval world. They revived aspects of Roman administration, embraced the Christian faith, and blended it with their own traditions, creating a new culture that would spread across Europe. Their legacy is felt even today. The borders drawn after the Treaty of Verdun continue to influence the political landscape of modern Europe, and the cultural revival sparked by Charlemagne paved the way for intellectual achievements of the High Middle Ages and the Renaissance. The story of the Franks is the story of Europe itself, a story of conflict, faith, ambition, and ultimately transformation. Though the armies of the Franks no longer march across the fields of Europe, their influence remains in the very fabric of our world. The laws, borders, and traditions they set in motion still shape the nations of today. So next time you look at a map of Europe, remember, the Franks were here first, building the foundations of our modern world. Thank you for watching History Mysteries, where we unravel the past to better understand our present and future. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to History Mysteries, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into history's greatest mysteries. What do you think is the most lasting legacy of the Frankish Empire? Comments below, and let's continue the conversation.